going on, everybody? Welcome back to the shop. This week we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to give the Honda a bit of a rest. I know I got most of the way through the engine, but I'm still waiting on parts. Just as an example, I ordered a brake clevis for that thing, and FedEx had it here in town in Arizona, and then somehow rerouted it to Springdale, Arkansas. So now I have a brake clevis in Springdale, Arkansas that was here 2 days ago, and now it's going to be a week out. So that just gives you an idea of what it's like waiting on parts sometimes. Anyway, the Honda will sit. We're almost there. I can pretty much throw the bottom end together, but we'll get back to that next week. This week, I've got something really interesting that I want to try, kind of a science experiment, if you will. If you guys remember, I received a Glann Innovations fan kit. So this is the dual fan kit. This comes from John up there at Glann Innovations, and it moves a ton of air. I can't remember what he said, but it was somewhere in the realm of 600 CFM, maybe a little bit more than that, even with these dual fans. So it got me thinking, why don't I just get a temperature sensor? This one's made by TrailTech. They're super cheap. You can get a couple of these for like 30 or 40 bucks. So I got this one. It just goes right in line in the coolant hose that runs to the radiator from the head. So it'll read temperature. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install that first. We're going to go run this thing out in the desert, get a temperature reading on a stock fan and radiator, and then come back, install the fan kit, and see what kind of heat savings we get. Now, if you guys remember, I have the Vortex in this thing now. I'm not running that flash tune anymore from Alba. I've got the Vortex in here, and what Jay does up at Illinois Power Sports is he turns the fan on earlier. So when the temperature is a little bit lower than stock, it'll come on at about, I think, 180 degrees rather than 200 degrees. So the fan's already on earlier. So this should run a little bit cooler to begin with, but we're going to find out just how much this thing helps. First thing I'm going to do before I tackle all this is I'm actually going to remove the front plastics because I need to get at that radiator cap and everything underneath there anyway. And when I splice in the temp sensor, I have to run a wire up through here to wherever I'm going to put the actual monitor for it, which I think I might put up at the bar pad. Gotta love how easy YFCs come apart. Just some quick tabs. I do like that. Easy. It's so simple. Then I'm going to pull this shroud so that I can expose the radiator cap behind it. Oh, of course, that's a different size. Dare Yamaha. Use more of the same size bolt. Don't go from Allen head to hex head. Let's make it a little easier. It's not bad though. Okay. Simple. All right, that's what I needed to get at. We're gonna just crack that. Whew. Suction cupped in there. Now, I can break this 8mm bolt. Ooh. So I can get some coolant flowing. Oh, that's gonna spray all over. Dang it. I should have done the bolt first and then cracked the cap after. All right, I'm getting most of it now. I just need the coolant level low enough so it gets out of that upper radiator hose. Then I can pull it and work on it and splice that temp sensor in. Dang it. I got some on the floor. That's all right, that's not too bad. Now I can pull this upper radiator hose. Get these clips off. By the way, you guys see this right here? That is a Peak Racing Products plug. So whenever you unplug like all your unnecessary sensors and everything, when there's exposed plugs, even with your headlights, when you delete those, they make these perfect little plug-ins that just cap everything off. Pretty cool stuff. Can I get at that one? Come on. Devil clip. Come on. Oh, there. I want to turn it towards me. There. Oh, I still have a little bit in there. Oh no. There we go. All right, and that's what I need. As I pour more out of there. Jeez. Now all I have to do is take this guy and splice it right into this hose. They already provided a couple hose clamps with it, so I can clamp that on there. No big deal. This is very, very straightforward. I already confirmed that it fits. All right. That little spline piece fits right in the hose, so all I got to do is fit it right in the center here. Try to cut it tight so that I get as much of the hose onto that barb as I can. But that's really it. I'm just gonna mark it a little bit here, and then I'm gonna cut it as cleanly as I can. I really hate jagged hoses. I wanna keep it nice and straight. And then plug it all back in. Find a good spot for this temp sensor, which I'm thinking I'll carve right into the bar pad. If you guys remember Nomad, our desert rig, we had a TrailTech that also monitored speed and temperature and distance, which was awesome. We love that. And I was able to carve it into the bar pad. It's a little bigger than this, but then we were able to read all our data in real time. It's hard while the quad's bouncing around and stuff like that, but you can always glance down and catch your temperature every once in a while so you can get good feedback. So that's it. You feed the wire and then you plug the thing in, and I think it just has a little internal battery in here. I'm not sure how you keep this thing charged. I think it's like a lifetime battery, but I don't know. There's really no way to replace a battery. I'm not sure about that. I'd love to be able to run some power to it, but hey, let's just give this a shot. Now that I got the temp sensor spliced in there, I've got these hose clamps on. They're snugged down just a little bit because I want to be able to move this thing around so I can line all these hoses back up. But we're going to start by sticking it back onto the cylinder head, and then roll this one back onto the radiator. There we go. If I can get to this guy. Ugh, come on. There we go. Since the clamps are back on, and I like where this is sitting, we're gonna go ahead and tighten these down. It's in a good position, so we're gonna go ahead and snug it up. Okay, I'm a little excited about this. This is kind of slick. I don't have any of the plastics on, don't worry about that. But I really like how somehow, I don't know if they meant to do it this way, but they cut the wire just long enough from the sensor. It runs right up underneath here. I was able to tie it in with everything else, and it is like the perfect amount of wire right up into here. And I cut out the bar pad. This is really easy. I just trace around it with like a black permanent marker, just enough so that I can see it, shine some light on it, take a razor blade and cut out the bar pad. Then I trace that onto the actual foam underneath, and then I'll cut it with a razor again, and then I'll take a Dremel with like it's a round like auger bit, and just drill out the foam until it looks deep enough. So I got that mounted in there pretty close to flush. I don't need it all the way flush. And then I run some M4 screws. They're pretty long all the way through the washer and just a small nut on the backside. And there you go. Nice and easy. I'll go through and do all the settings. I'll put the plastic back on. But I'm excited to have that on there. That's actually kind of cool. We'll get the plastics back on, and then we'll head out and we'll get a test. I got to make sure I put some coolant back in too. We'll find out what the temperature is riding around like normal, stock radiator, stock fan, turned on a little bit earlier by Jay. So it should come on around 180 degrees. That fan will start kicking on, but we'll see what our temps are ripping around out here in the heat. It's cooling down a little bit. We're still in the 90s. I think it's going to be a high of 99 today, but we'll get a good read on what the temperature is ripping around on this thing. Here we are, out here in the desert, finally putting this thing to the test. I have something else I'm kind of testing right now. I actually have this really interesting set of GBC ground busters. I've got this in-between size. I call them the tweeners. I don't know.
That's what she said.
Don't quote me on that. Thank you. These are 22-inch front, 21-inch rear tires. They're right in between desert and off-road, like work style tires. Works in your off-road are your 20 and 21s, and then your desert is your 22 and 23. This is in between. It's kind of like this weird sweet spot. So I'm messing with these. seeing if they handle like they're supposed to. They're supposed to be like a good handling tire, but also give you a ton of ground clearance and get rid of most of the little chatter because of the rolling circumference on these things. Besides those, I've got the temp sensor here on the dash, and right now I'm reading about 187 degrees. So the fan is running because that's about, yep, we're now at 190. The fan is now running because that is the temperature that Jay set it at, about 180, 190 to kick on. And we are holding right around 187, 190 right now. I'm not really pushing it yet. Giving it some good acceleration. I'm also feeling these tires out because since they're taller than the work setup, they also stretch out my gears a little bit. So I am getting quite a bit more speed. And I'm okay with that. Holy smokes. This is awesome. There we go. Put some heat into this thing. I'm still reading 190. That is fantastic. And as soon as I slow down, let's see what we're at. 186, 187. That's great news. As you guys know, anyone who rides a YFZ knows that these get hot. Oh my God, that's bumpy. They're just kind of notorious for that, especially all stock settings and everything. So I'm gonna take one of my favorite loops out here. I'm gonna do it once, several miles, running this thing. It's about 98 degrees ambient temp. And we'll see what this thing climbs up to over this loop. Then we'll head back. I'll install the Glann fan. And then we'll see what kind of temperatures we're reading then. Maybe a little bit cooler than this, maybe right around the same, I don't know. Maybe they won't fluctuate as much. I'm interested to see. So let's get some miles on. I've only been out here a handful of times, but it's full of all kinds of great terrain. Good elevation changes, just little hills, nothing crazy, but it's fun going up and down this ridge line and kind of lacing it up. Out here in the sun. Great trail. That's peaky. That is just a quick drop off over there. I'll give you a little feedback on these tires. Over all this small chatter, kind of like your washboard stuff, they really do better than the off-road size. So I can attest to that. There's less feedback rolling over most of that. Still get a little bit, but the other thing I'm noticing is the handling is still there. These are not MX tires, so don't expect that. But that is some welcome ground clearance out here with these things. Whoa! Caught an inside edge there. Still at 190. Nice little double there. So, I'll give these GBCs a nice passing grade. I like these. I've been very curious to try these for a while now. They've been out for, I want to say, over a year, but they've been out of stock most of the time. I was able to snag this set, oh, maybe 6 months ago. They hook so well. I love these ground busters. They have a very MX style tread, but they come in 4 and 6 ply, so heavier but much more durable. And the front tires, with that tread pattern and design, they float really well on the sand. So I love running them out here. I'll even run them in the dunes instead of like your sand stars or something. So I really do like these. Now they don't make the ground buster in a desert size, but I'd say that this would be a good substitute over an XC Master. You can feel just how long the gears get with these taller tires. Wide open throttle, we're touching 200 degrees. That's at wide open throttle, 98 degree temps, ambient. That is 5th gear, wide open throttle, all the way down that road. And then now we're slowing down, it's 199 again. Everything is wide open too, so that makes a difference in airflow. It's not like a GNCC course where everything's super tight and technical and you're revving but you're not going anywhere. There's a lot of airflow out here, so a little different environment. Okay, first loop done. We're gonna head back to the garage and then we'll get the Glann fan kit on there, the dual fan kit, and we'll do the same loop again. Try to heat this baby up and see what those fans do. All right, I just pulled in. I want you guys to see that. This thing is sitting here idling. I just got back 30 seconds ago. 189, 188. So because Jade, Illinois Power Sports, turns that fan on earlier, I don't know if he's the only one that does it, but because that fan comes on earlier and stays on, I have a feeling that's why this thing is staying so cool. Plus, the speeds I'm moving at is keeping a lot of air moving through the radiator. That's kind of where we're hanging out. That's awesome. Okay, to the dual fan kit. All right, first test ride done, and it was a good one. Now I got to remove all the plastics. We're going to open this thing back up. I'm even going to remove the tank. Seems like an easier way to get all the wires routed. It's a pretty serious harness, so let's yank these off, and then we'll get to rerouting and mounting the fan. So we'll reroute the wires, and we'll mount the fan on there. Then we'll button everything back up once it's all hooked up, and we'll go back for another test ride and see what kind of numbers we get on the next one. God, I love that. All right, I got everything removed because right here, you guys can see the wiring harness runs through here. There's a little clip. I'm actually going to have to run a positive power cable all the way back and hook it up to the battery. Let me show you what the harness looks like. All right, so this looks like a monstrosity right now, I know that. But there's that positive power cable. We're gonna run everything underneath here. That's why I removed the gas tank, all that. It's just much easier to get at everything, especially when you're trying to remove the old fan and put the new fan in. It gets the shrouds out of the way. But you can see there's a lot that we're gonna have to route and kind of keep underneath the plastics. But this is the wiring harness that goes to it. And then let me show you guys something. This sweet little piece is actually the switch. So reading the directions again, I kind of had some things backwards. The right-hand fan, which is the one that's pointing at the exhaust, is actually controlled by the switch. So the switch, you can flick it on. If the thing's sitting there parked, you got the key on, just hit this and it pulls power from the battery and runs the fan. So if you're stopped, you're in a pit stop, or you're just going slow, you can hit that, get that second fan going, and the other one should be running off the thermostat. I don't think it's running constant because I think it should still run off of the factory thermostat. So the factory sensor. So you have the option to kick that other fan on whenever you need it or you think the thing's getting hot. That's going to be interesting because what I think I might do is while we're out riding, I'll ride it with just the one fan going, see what kind of temps we get. It will probably get a little bit hot, but then I can kick this one on if the temps start getting out of hand, which I don't think they will.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Let me show you guys a couple things that might make your life a little bit easier. I'm just kind of stumbling through this. Okay, so I went ahead and I took out that little splash tray right here. It made it way easier to access the top bolt on the fan and then trace my wire up. The wire for your fan right here should be sitting right up underneath that headlight mount, all right? You're gonna need to yank all that out, but that's gonna make life a lot easier in here so that you can get this out and then slide this bad boy in. I think it's actually easier to get the fan to come up through everything. Oh yeah, that was way easier. Old fan out. Then we'll try to slide the new Glann fan in gently. There's some hoses down here, some overflow hoses down to your coolant bottle. You'll probably have to manipulate a little bit to get it around. Actually kind of popped the cap off there by accident, but it helped. So that's good. These are just 10mm head bolts. Very simple. I'm not gonna go all the way tight yet till I get all of them set, but that's pretty straightforward. I gotta say, with the slotted mounting tabs on here, it makes installation really easy. Everything's lining up. It took a little bit of figuring out, but I've got everything routed. The white plug goes right down there to the fans. Then you've got this interesting little doodad here. Not even really sure what that is. Kind of looks like a relay. The long two-prong black plug goes out to your switch. And then there's the other one that has the shroud on it. That goes up underneath here to your factory plug on your harness. There's a white plug under there, the one that we unplug the fans from. All right. Then a ground wire that runs directly to your fuel tank mount I just have a bolt in there pinching it down real quick so I could test this. I ran the positive wire following this, then it goes underneath this little brace right here, or this little piece across the frame. All right, follows the frame rail just like the other harness and comes out through here into the box, up to the positive, and then we'll try it out. Yeah, the right fan should kick on, and that's what's going on right now. Cool. All right, I'm gonna button up the rest of this. We'll get all the things back on here, and then we'll go ahead and go for our ride. All right, back out here for round 2. Let's see what kind of temps we get now. So in the first 2 minutes, we're already up to 156. And for this one, I'm going to not touch that button until I need it. We're gonna let this thing roll, let it get up to temperature, and see what one fan can handle, because it's gonna get kicked on a little bit earlier anyway. And from what I'm reading, between the two fans, you get 684 cubic feet per minute. So quite a bit of airflow from the two fans. So one side will flow, what is that, 342? And it's pulling through the radiator and against a shroud. Now, one thing that we run into out here in the heat is when you have a full shroud on something and you're running at the pace we do, the fans can't keep up with the amount of airflow that your radiator would normally see from air just moving through the radiator without any obstruction. So at full pace, 60, 70 miles an hour, the speed that the air moves through the radiator normally is faster than a fan can usually handle. And the fan's really just there for your slow speed stuff or sitting still. All right, now we're at 184, so that left side fan should be on. It's starting to cool this radiator down. $185. We're at 190. We're gonna go back out and do the same exact loop out here. And then when I really get this thing cooking, oh, we're at 188. All right. So that fan is holding us right around 180, 190 without being at full tilt. So cruise around, second, third gear, kind of goofing off. Still holding us right around that 190 mark. That's good. Let's see if you guys can hear the fan. We're at 191, we're just sitting here idling, so low speed to no speed. And that fan is moving, yep. I don't know if you guys can see it. That fan is moving. Right side still off. We're idling at 188 degrees. This is very promising so far. Now let's put the screws to this thing. Build a little heat. I am loving this TrailTech setup. This is so convenient. One of these days, maybe I'll upgrade to like a larger TrailTech so I can track speed and distance as well. Kind of like we do on our desert rigs. Man, we are hanging right at 190. This is great so far. It's kind of what we were at yesterday with a wide open radiator. So as I was explaining earlier about wide open airflow and radiator shrouds, This is a full shroud on this radiator with this fan kit. And a shroud is designed to divert air into the fan so it pulls the air harder. But out here in the heat, when it doesn't let the air through as much, what happens is you start building so much heat that shroud can actually trap the heat in the radiator, especially right in front of the exhaust. On the Hondas, it was doing that to me when I would have a full metal shroud. The exhaust side would heat up the shroud, and then it would trap the heat against the radiator, and the fan wasn't able to pull it through fast enough at full tilt. So it's just building up heat in the radiator, kind of soaking it. This so far is not doing that. We're actually pulling air through, and it's getting through, which is very good out here. Oh, this is fantastic so far. Let's keep going. Up to the twin walls here. Remember, this is the one that just drops off. You'll see a lot of desert guys will have it taped on their bar pad where it says, "Stay off the clutch. Don't use the clutch." As little as possible. So that way you don't get all that friction between the plates. Try to keep them locked, so you don't build a bunch of heat in the engine, because you're trying to push 90 miles an hour for hundreds of miles. I'm still reading 191. That's excellent. Now, I'm not in fifth gear tapped yet, but I am going up and down a bunch of different little hill climbs, rocks, some high RPM, some low RPM, back and forth on this thing. Trying to keep a steady pace through all this rough terrain. Good training too. Ah, this thing is so good. Still at 190. That little fan is moving a lot of air. I'm getting a lot less bottom out too with these taller tires. This is great. I feel more confident that I can beat this across the desert without taking out Nerf bars and skid plates. 188. All right, now we're getting to this section where it's going to be wide open on the way back. This is the back side of the loop. All right, 193. There we go. Now we're starting to push pace. limiter. Fifth gear, come on, baby. Let's go, let's go. I just kicked on that second fan. 202. Now we're moving air. Fantastic. This is fifth gear tapped, everybody. 202. 201. We're back down. And now we have to slow down. Oh my gosh. That is such a wide open line. All the way back down to 196. Look at that. 193. That's two fans on. 189. We are right back down in the 180s. That's impressive how quick that reacted. 186. So we hit about 204. It was starting to climb pretty quick. It went 201, 202, 203, 204. And then I hit the fan about halfway down. Now we're cruising with both fans on in about third gear. We're at 189. That is some good stuff right there. At 199. Oh my God, that's fantastic. Back down to 191. And 188. Holy cow, does that cool off quick. Second fan is now off. There we go. And we're holding 189 right now, just chilling. Look at that. 192, now that we're sitting idling. No air is moving, it's just the fan. 193. I think it's safe to say that fan kit works. That works really well. If I remove some of the shroud, I'll bet maybe some of the cooling would be better, but I don't want to mess with it. John's got a bunch of development behind this stuff. He works with GNCC racers, MX racers, TT guys, and now desert guys. So he's working with a bunch of different people, getting feedback and putting all that back into these fan kits. He's changing up how many fans he has, where they're placed, which ones are coming on, how much air they move, 2 versus 3, all kinds of stuff. So safe to say that this fan kit works. Well, what are my final thoughts? I've got nothing but good things to say. So far, I really like this fan kit. It's built well, it fits very well, comes packed with all kinds of cool little features and gadgets, like that button you see on the handlebar there. It moves plenty of air, that's for sure. It versus the stock fan, I think I'm going to keep this one on there. What I noticed with the stock fan and open radiator was at slow speeds, it tended to heat up just a little bit faster than having the small fan on the shroud. The shroud, remember, we run into those problems at high speed. It starts to build up heat and then it traps against that shroud. Well, at low speeds, that small fan is moving enough air with that shroud that it keeps the temps cool in the slow speed stuff. But once we got up to the higher speed stuff, the open radiator and the bigger stock fan seemed to hold it right around 200 to 201 degrees. I didn't really hold it much longer, but it seemed to stay right there. This one started climbing past that until I kicked on that second fan. Temps came right back down to 200 degrees. So across the board, the dual fan kit seems to be a lot more consistent. Stays cooler at low speeds, and you can bring those temps right back down at high speed. Another interesting thing I thought of, when I got back from the ride with just the stock fan and open radiator, the quad sat in the garage and took hours to cool back down. What you can do with the dual fan kit, simply hit the fan and cool it right back down. So you can probably get those temps down even quicker, at least by blowing on the engine and trying to get some of that heat away from it. That's cool. Downside to that, well, you'll learn one of two things. Either that fan is working really well, or you're going to have a dead battery, because right now the key isn't even on. That fan is hooked directly to the battery, so be wary of that. You might have to remember, or at least remind yourself, to turn that thing off, or you're going to probably kill your battery. I don't know the specifics on how much power that fan actually pulls, but I'm assuming that it would kill your battery a lot faster if it just sat there. So, with all that being said, that is a cool piece of kit, and I'm glad that I got in touch with Glann Innovations. He got me this dual fan kit because it's a sweet piece of tech I think I'm going to keep on here for a long time. Now, you guys can make decisions for yourselves. Whether you want it or not, it's a cool piece. You know where to go. GlannInnovations.com if you want one. Hit him up. John will be more than happy to explain all the differences between the fan kits, what they do, how they can be used, and results. That's the cool thing. You can talk directly to him and he can give you the rundown on everything. So, if you like it, you know where to go. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ta-ta!